Let's continue here in the Aqidah of Al-Ghazali. This small creedal manual that is like other creedal manuals that you've become familiar with. We've gone over a number of them now. Alhamdulillah. That some people call it Qawa'id al-Aqa'id by Al-Ghazali. And we're going to start from here where the author says, may Allah have mercy upon him. وأنه مستو على العرش على الوجه الذي قاله. And the fact of the matter is that he is mustawi, someone who has istiwa over the arsh. We explained this line last time, but I just want to start from here and go on from there. Mustawi means someone who has istiwa. Istiwa is one of his attributes that's confirmed in the Quran. When he says in the Quran, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arshi istawa, and other verses too that mention the istiwa. The istiwa over the arsh in particular. The istiwa ala al-arsh over the arsh. So the word that Al-Ghazali used here is mustawin. That's the adjective. So that's the descriptive name for someone who has istiwa. What does istiwa mean? Here Al-Ghazali didn't explain. He didn't give definitive meaning for istiwa. And rather, he's confirming that Allah has an attribute called istiwa because it came in the Quran. And instead of saying exactly what it means, Al-Ghazali said, عَلَى الْوَجْهِ الَّذِي قَالَهُ, in whatever way he said. He is someone who has istiwa over the arsh according to the meaning that he willed. عَلَى الْوَجْهِ الَّذِي قَالَهُ, it means according to whatever meaning he willed to be the meaning of what he said. According to whatever meaning he willed to be the meaning of what he said. When you say something is one thing, what it means could be another thing. So what Allah said is Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arshi istawa. Ar-Rahman has istiwa over the arsh. Ar-Rahman is Allah. He has istiwa over the arsh. Okay, that's confirmed. What does it mean though? Here he didn't say what it means. He's saying whatever it means, whatever Allah willed is what it means. Whatever Allah meant by it is what it means. And he didn't go into exactly what does it mean. Because the word istiwa can have many meanings in Arabic language. And some of those meanings don't work actually. Like sitting. You don't say it means he sat on the throne, because then that would mean that God has a body. And don't say it means he became ripe, or you don't say it means he straightened up, and you don't say it means established on, or established over, or something like this. Of all the meanings that it could mean overcame, meaning dominated. He overcame the arsh means he dominated the arsh. He had power over it. And then the significance of mentioning the arsh would be because the arsh is the largest creation. So if God has power over the largest creation, he has power over everything that's smaller too. You say we have a couple of new Muslims tonight? Okay, no problem. So any new Muslims and any other Muslims, if you have any question about what I'm talking about, please ask. Don't let the information pass you and you don't understand. Don't be people who accept the lack of comprehension for yourselves. Don't feel shy to ask. So Al-Ghazali said, وَأَنَّهُ مُسْتَوٍ عَلَى الْعَرْشِ. The fact of the matter is that, and the fact of the matter is that God is someone who has an attribute called istiwa. Istiwa. And this word istiwa can have many meanings in Arabic language. Some of those meanings work for God and some of them don't work. Amongst the meanings that work are like dominance and supremacy and preservation and keeping, like to make something last. Those work. And amongst the meanings that don't work is like sitting and ripening and becoming straight, straightening up, uh, and some other meanings too. Settling, we don't say it means established on or established over. So, وَأَنَّهُ مُسْتَوٍ عَلَى الْعَرْشِ عَلَى الْوَجْهِ الَّذِي قَالَهُ. So, if you translate this statement just as it appears, he's saying, in the way that he said, in the way that he said. He is someone who has istiwa over the arsh in the way that he said. And when it says over the arsh, istiwa over the arsh. The arsh is the ceiling of paradise. The ceiling of paradise, it's called al-arsh. And it's the largest creation that Allah ever created. So he is someone who has istiwa. He has an attribute called istiwa over the arsh. We say the most likely meaning of istiwa here is dominance, supremacy. He overcame the arsh. That means he had power over it. Doesn't mean he struggled. He didn't struggle. He had power over this enormous creation from the instant it came into existence. على الوجه الذي قاله. He has this attribute in the way that he said. So in the way that he said means according to the meaning that he meant. According to the meaning that God meant for the statement to mean. Yani, that he willed for it to mean. Whether we knew what it means exactly or we don't know what it means exactly, whatever it means, number one, it's befitting, and number two, we believe in it. The words we believe in, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arshi istawa. These words, we believe in them. And if we know what those words mean, we believe in that. And if we don't know what those words mean, then we believe in whatever it means. And we know what it doesn't mean for sure. We know what it doesn't mean. Like we know for sure it does not mean sitting on the throne. He says, وَبِالْمَعْنَى الَّذِي أَرَادَهُ. Yes. So he is someone who has istiwa over the arsh in the way that he said and by the meaning that he willed. استواء منزها عن المماسة. And then he tells you what it does not mean. He said it's an istiwa that is exalted, cleared from touching, contact. So it doesn't mean he's sitting on the throne. And it's an istiwa wal istiqrar. And it's clear from dwelling. That means being in a place. What tamakkun, and being situated also means being in a place. It's clear from it. This istiwa doesn't mean he's situated somewhere or that he's dwelling somewhere. Wal hulul, and dwelling, like okay. Wal intiqal, and relocating. So it does not mean relocating. It does not mean dwelling. Does not mean being situated. Does not mean touching something. لا يحمله العرش. The arsh does not carry him. So that's negation that he sits upon it. It does not carry him. بل العرش وحملته محمولون بلطف قدرته. Rather, the arsh and its carriers are all carried by the sublimeness of his power. What does that mean? Rather, the Arsh, what's the Arsh? It's the ceiling of paradise, the largest creation. وَحَمَلَتُهُ, and its carriers, the carriers of the Arsh. Who are they? Those are angels. There are angels who carry the Arsh, the ceiling of paradise. It is reported that those are 4 angels now in this lifetime before the afterlife, and that ceiling of paradise rests upon their shoulders. And those angels are enormous angels, so big that it takes a swift bird 700 years to go from the earlobe of one of those angels to his shoulder. Takes a swift bird 700 years to go from the earlobe of one of those angels to his shoulder. So that's very huge. And subhanallah, Sheikh Tariq said his feet are below the seventh earth, below the seventh earth. I remember learning his feet are on the seventh earth. Sheikh Tariq said below seventh earth, but not on something, meaning their feet are just, if you want, in the air. They're not standing actually on something. Their feet just extends below the seventh earth. That's very far from here. We're on the first earth. Below this earth is another one, 500 years below this one. And below that one, there's another one. Each earth is 500 years apart. And there's 7 of them. And his feet are on the 7th earth or below the 7th earth without touching something. That's very, very huge. Those 4 of those. And then on resurrection day, there will be 8 of them. 8 such angels. So those angels are called Hamalatul Arsh, the carriers or the bearers of the Arsh. Bearer meaning carrier. Al-Ghazali said, بَلِ الْعَرْشُ وَحَمَلَتُهُ مَحْمُولُونَ بِلُطْفِ قُدْرَتِهِ. In fact, or rather, the Arsh, that enormous creation, and its bearers, those enormous angels, they are all carried by his power, meaning they're all under his power. وَمَقْهُورُونَ فِي قَبْضَتِهِ, and they are all dominated by his qabdah. So if you translate qabdah very literally, it would mean to the effect of they are all subjugated by his grasp. Or one might say they are all subjugated or dominated in his grip. That's how someone might translate it. Qabdah is a fist in a literal sense. But Allah is not a body. He doesn't have limbs, doesn't have organs. So it's not meant that he has a hand that can open and close, and that he would put something in his hand and close his fingers around it. No. So all of those creations, those enormous creations, are all subjugated fi qabdatihi, if you translate it literally, in his grip. It means under his control. That's the meaning. They're all subjugated by his control. Spell what you need me to spell.
What do you call them angels, say?
Those angels are called the Hamala. The Hamala, that means carriers. And that's a ha, the hard H. The Hamala. Hamalatul Arsh. The carriers or the bearers of the Arsh. وَهُوَ فَوْقَ الْعَرْشِ وَالسَّمَاءِ. Al-Ghazali says, and he is... so now I just want to brace you here. So Al-Ghazali's style, if you really want to appreciate what he wants to say to you, then you're going to have to allow me to be a little bit literal so you can get a feel of what he wants to say. So, comprehend here what's being said and what's meant. He said, وَهُوَ فَوْقَ الْعَرْشِ وَالسَّمَاءِ, and he is over or above the arsh and the sky. He is over or above the sky. He's over the arsh, which is the ceiling of paradise. And paradise is over all of the skies. There's 7 skies. Over the 7th sky, there's paradise disconnected from it. Over paradise is the arsh, the ceiling of paradise. وَهُوَ فَوْقَ الْعَرْشِ وَالسَّمَاءِ, he is over or above the arsh and the sky. But that doesn't mean in a place, and Al-Ghazali is going to say so. For sure it doesn't mean a place. He just now finished telling us. He said, the istiwa of Allah is clear of touching and dwelling and being situated and relocation, and the arsh does not carry him. All that means he's not in a place. And then when he says he is over the arsh, he is above the arsh and over the sky or above the sky, this means in greatness, doesn't mean in place or location. وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ, and he is over everything. إِلَى تُخُومِ الثَّرَى, he is over everything to the limits of الثرى is the soil. The thara is the soil. إِلَى تُخُومِ الثَّرَى, to the limits of the edges of the earth. Yani he's not in any place, nowhere. And he is in status above everything. فوقية لا تزيده قربا إلى العرش والسماء كما لا تزيده بعدا عن الأرض والثرى. He is over everything or above everything with an aboveness that does not increase him in closeness to the arsh or the sky, just as it does not increase him in farness from the earth and the soil. So Al-Ghazali here, he's using the word fawq for Allah, and he's using the word that means above or over. And he's using the word qurb, close, and he's using the word bu'd, far. So God's aboveness is the aboveness of greatness and supremacy, and his closeness is his knowledge of everything, and the farness from God. The farness from God is not a spatial one, but it is the lack of status. It is the lowness of status and the lack of acceptability. That is the farness from God, not a direction or place or area or space. بل هو رفيع الدرجات عن العرش والسماء. Rather, he is the one who is of elevated status. The one who is of elevated status. Elevated status over the arsh and over the heaven. The status is over. There's no place, though, for God anywhere. كما أنه رفيع الدرجات عن الأرض والثرى. Just as he has the elevated status from the earth and the soil. وهو مع ذلك قريب من كل موجود. And he is, despite that, yani, despite not being in any place or direction, he is close to every existent one. So, like I just said, if you want to get a feel really for what Ghazali is saying, I'm going to just try to translate literally some of what he's saying. I'm going to not try to avoid, like how we usually try to avoid some things. I'm going to try not to avoid some of those things so you see what he's saying. وهو مع ذلك قريب من كل شيء من كل موجود, and he is, despite that, meaning despite existing without a place. Despite existing without a place, he is close to every existent thing. And so close here means by knowledge. He knows everything, every existent thing. وَهُوَ أَقْرَبُ إِلَى الْعَبْدِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. And he is closer to the slave, the slave man and the slave woman, the human, or any other slave. The humans are slaves of God, the genies are slaves of God, the angels are slaves of God. He is closer to every slave than the jugular vein. He is closer to the slave than the jugular vein. What does that mean? It means by knowledge, not by place. Closer to a human than his jugular vein means he knows better about the human than the human knows about himself. He knows about the human better than the human knows about himself. وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ شَهِيدٌ. And he is over everything a witness. And excuse me, the meaning of God being a witness, shaheed, is being khabir, all-knowing. إِذْ لَا يُمَاثِلُ قُرْبُهُ قُرْبَ الْأَجْسَامِ. Since his closeness does not resemble the closeness of bodies. So he's telling you there, it's very clear what he's saying, that even though he's using some of these words that maybe some of you might feel irked to hear them translated literally, but he's telling you very clearly, he's using these words, but very clearly is not using them with the meaning of comparing God to the creations. So he says after all of that, إِذْ لَا يُمَاثِلُ قُرْبُهُ قُرْبَ الْأَجْسَامِ. Since his closeness does not resemble the closeness of bodies. كَمَا لَا تُمَاثِلُ ذَاتُهُ ذَاتَ الْأَجْسَامِ. Just as his self does not resemble the selves of the bodies. Or just as his being does not resemble the being of the bodies. Like we are bodies. Our bodies have being, existence. His self does not resemble the selves of the bodies. And his closeness does not resemble the closeness of the bodies. So it means he's not a body, he's not in a place. وَأَنَّهُ لَا يَحُلُّ فِي شَيْءٍ. And the fact of the matter is that God does not dwell in anything. He doesn't dwell in anything. He's not inside of something. Some people believe God is in them. They say, God is in me. It's not true. That's blasphemy. And actually, that's very severe, very, very, very severe blasphemy. In fact, when someone says God is in him, that's a type of atheism, actually. It's very high blasphemy to believe that God dwells within things. وَلَا يَحُلُّ فِيهِ شَيْءٍ. Nor does anything dwell within him. Nothing dwells in him because he's not a vessel. He's not a body. تَعَالَى عَنْ أَنْ يَحْوِيَهُ مَكَانٍ. Exalted is he from a place containing him. So that statement right there, when you put that with his other statements, and there is no way to misconstrue these words of Al-Ghazali, really. Just because some of these words are words that should not be taken literally, his using words that should not be taken literally does not even make his statements able to be misconstrued. He clearly is clearing Allah from place and direction and bodies and resemblance and comparisons. تعالى عن أن يحويه مكان. Exalted is he from a place containing him. كما تقدس عن أن يحده زمان. Just as he is holy from time limiting him. So he's not contained by a place, and he is not limited by time. What's a place? Okay, question here. Says, so the seven skies wasn't literal? No, the seven skies are literal. It's the highness of God that's not literal, and the closeness of God that's not literal, and the farness from God that's not literal. His highness doesn't make him closer to the skies, because the skies are high over the earth, because his highness is not a literal one. You said, I wanted to understand more about what the seven skies mean. Yeah. So we are on earth, and over this earth, when you look up in the daytime, you see blue. So that blue that you see overhead, that's an object there. It's not a bubble around the earth. That's an object up there. That object is called, in Arabic, sama. Sama means sky or heaven. Not heaven like when you go to heaven after you die. Heaven like, can't you say, for example, the birds fly in the heavens? Just means the sky. So that blue up there, that's the underside of a very huge object called sama. And in words, you might use the word firmament. That sama is separate from this earth we live on. There's 500 years between that object up above us and this earth that we're on. That's one sky. And then there's six more. There's another one over that, and 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 another one over that. Seven skies. And then over the seventh sky, disconnected from it, is paradise itself. The heaven where you go after you come back to life. The garden, which is physical and real. It's not just spiritual. And then over that is the ceiling or the roof of paradise called Al-Arsh. And that is the largest thing that Allah created. It's larger than paradise itself. So when Al-Ghazali said that, what did he say here? Let's look at some of his wordings. وَهُوَ فَوْقَ الْعَرْشِ وَالسَّمَاءِ. So he is over the Arsh and the sky or heaven. Or he is above. So folk, you could say above or over. He is above or over the Arsh and the sky. This does not in any way mean he's in a place. Do you reckon that a Wahhabi would bring you the statement of Al-Ghazali here, where Al-Ghazali said, وَهُوَ فَوْقَ الْعَرْشِ وَالسَّمَاءِ? Yeah, he certainly would bring you that. And he will hope that you don't know what's in the rest of this document here. He's going to say, even Ghazali said Allah is over the Arsh. That's how they play. And that's what they do with the Aqidah of At-Tahawi also. At-Tahawi clearly clears Allah from place. They would say, don't you see that At-Tahawi said, Allah is over everything. Look, Tahawi said Allah is over everything. So those are people who don't know how to put two and two together. When Tahawi said that Allah is not contained in the six directions, and Wahhab is going to say to you, did you ever hear those people saying that Imam al-Tahawi said that Allah is clear of the six directions? Those silly people. Look right here. Tahawi says Allah is over everything. So, yeah, they didn't know how to put two and two together. Because, yeah, he did say Allah is over everything. But he said also that Allah is not contained in any direction. So if he's not contained in any direction on one hand, and on the other hand, you're going to say he's over everything, then means that being over is not a literal one, means that it's his greatness. Ta'ala an yahwiyahu makan. He is exalted from a place containing him. What's a place? A place is the space that's filled by something with volume. Something with volume. Volume itself means the occupation of space. Volume is the occupation of space. So the more volume you have, we're not talking about sound here. The more volume you have, the more space you take up. كما تقدس عن أن يحده زمان. Just as he is holy, meaning exalted from time limiting him. What's time? Time is the measure between events. Time is the measure between events, meaning the sun rose at some point and it set at some point. So whatever is between that sunrise and that sunset, that's called time. Or I'll give you another example. The hand of the clock was at one position. Then the hand of the clock was at another position. So the measure between that hand being in one position versus the other position, that's called zaman, time. He is exalted from time limiting him. بل كان قبل أن خلق الزمان والمكان. In fact, he was before creating time and place. He was means he was existing. In fact, he was before creating time and place. وهو الآن على ما عليه كان. And he is now as he was. Yani without time and without place. He is now as he was. Some Wahhabi also is going to say to you, why you said Allah exists without a place? You're going to say to him, because don't you know Allah is the creator of places? He's going to say, yeah, I know Allah is the creator of places. So you say to him, so that means if he's the creator of places, that he existed before any place existed. Right? So hopefully he'll say, yeah, that's right. And he still might say something else. He should say, yeah, that is right. So you say to him, okay, so if he existed before creating places, yani if he created places means he existed before the places because he's the one who created them. The one who created something has to exist before the thing he created. So if he's the one who created places means he existed before places, and if he existed before places means he existed without a place. So why is it so hard for you to understand? So what he might say, well, that was then. But now the places exist. What about now? So you say to him, وَهُوَ الْآنَ عَلَى مَا عَلَيْهِ كَانَ. He is now as he was. Don't believe that he started being in a place after he created a place, because that would mean that he's within his creations. That would mean he's within his creations. And what did Al-Ghazali say? وَأَنَّهُ لَا يَحُلُّ فِي شَيْءٍ. He does not dwell within anything. وأنه بائن عن خلقه بصفاته. And the fact of the matter is that he is distinct, ba'in, distinct, that means different, distinct from his creation by his attributes. But what does ba'in mean to a Wahhabi? For a Wahhabi, ba'in means separate. So the Wahhabis say Allah is separate from his creations. We're going to say he's not separate from his creations. So then he's going to say, so you're saying he's within his creations? I'm going to say, no, he's not within his creations either. So because his heart is blind, he's going to say, how does that make sense? You're saying he's not separate from his creations and he's not within his creations? Yeah, that's right. He's going to say, that's absurd. So then you say to him, don't you know that Allah created inside and outside? Then he might not want to answer you. You tell him, yes or no. Do you know that Allah created inside and outside? So he has to say yes. You're going to make him say yes. You're not going to move from here. You're not going to let him get away from with not answering you here. No, 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 no. Answer my question here. Don't you know Allah created inside and outside? So eventually he's going to say, yes, yeah, I know. So you say to him, that means then he existed before inside and before outside. And his heart is blind. He might not understand. So he might say, yeah. So he's separate. So he's not separate. And then when he insists here on saying he's separate, and I'm talking in English here, the word separate, then you're going to tell him, this word that you want to insist is the attribute of Allah. You have no reference for it. You don't have an ayah from the Quran, and you don't have a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ that confirms an attribute for Allah called separation. So this word, though, ba'in, the scholars use it. Even our sheikh used it, rahimahullah. He is ba'in. It does not mean separate, though. It means distinct. And the meaning of distinct is different. He is distinct from his creations. That means different from his creations. وَأَنَّهُ بَائِنٌ عَنْ خَلْقِهِ بِصِفَاتِهِ. And that he is distinct, meaning different, from his creations by his attributes. Because no one has attributes like his. لَيْسَ فِي ذَاتِهِ سِوَاهُ. There is not in his self someone else. There is not within his self someone else or something else. وَلَا فِي سِوَاهُ ذَاتُ. Nor is there within someone else his self, and nor is his self within someone else. وَأَنَّهُ مُقَدَّسٌ عَنِ التَّغَيُّرِ وَالِانْتِقَالِ. And the fact of the matter is that he is holy, that means exalted from change and relocating. So he is exalted from change, very important here. Allah does not change. He doesn't have a form or a shape or a color. So how would he change? Does not change. And he doesn't have a beginning or an end. So how would he change? Does not change. وَلَا تَحُلُّهُ الْحَوَادِثِ. And nothing happens to him. Nothing happens to him. وَلَا تَعْتَرِيهِ الْعَوَارِضِ. And created properties means like attributes. The created properties, the created qualities are inapplicable to him. بل لا يزال في نعوت جلاله منزها عن الزوال. Rather, he never ceases to be in the greatness of his attributes clear from vanishing. He never ceases to be in the greatness of his attributes clear from vanishing. Yeah, and he's everlasting. He's eternal and everlasting, existing one. وفي صفات كماله مستغنيا عن زيادة الاستكمال. And in the attributes of his perfection, he is needless of additional perfection. He is needless of additional perfection. And he would not become more perfect. He doesn't change. Because if he changed, then he either got better or worse. And there's no third option. If God changed, then either he got better or worse, and there's no third option. It's not an option to say that he changed without getting better or worse. If he changed, it would have been for the better or the worse only. But either way does not befit God, because if he got better, it means he was worse. So that's impossible. And if he got worse, then that's impossible. So he does not change. Wallahu a'lam, and Allah knows best. You have a question I can answer for you? Salam. Tayyib. So, how those new Muslims doing today? Was the lesson understandable? Inshallah. I hope it was clear. As I was giving it, I was afraid it's too advanced. Yes, go ahead. What's your question? Is it permissible to play Uno? No, it's not permissible. Because it's not permissible to play games of chance. Games of chance includes card games, dice games, dominoes, uh, and the like. Or a game that has a plucker, game that has a spinner, and the like. So can you explain how his chances in Uno? Yeah, because you don't know the hand you're going to get. You shuffle the cards. So then that means it's a game of chance. It's not like another sport like basketball. That's not a game of chance, or something else, or kickball, or even chess is not a game of chance. And billiards, that's pool. It's not a game of chance. Those are all games of skill. You have two types of games of skill and games of chance. And yes, it's possible that a game of chance involves skill. It's possible. But you cannot remove the element of chance from the game. If you can't remove the element of chance from the game, then it's a game of chance. Is it clear for you? You're welcome. So that's any card game. Cards are like dice. Dice is chance. So if you can't play with dice since we're here, then what you cannot play? Dungeons and Dragons. You said, I'm new. I understand, but in a way, I also understand that there is misinformation in other languages. So if I wanted exact interpretation, how would I go about this? So, okay. When you say, if I wanted exact interpretation, then you correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm misunderstanding you. Then it means, how do you get the exact interpretation of things that should not be taken literally? Because other things are clear. When we say Allah has power, Allah has knowledge, these are clear. There's no ambiguity in the statements. And there are things that should not be taken literally, so uh, there are things that can't be taken literally. So how do you get the exact interpretation about them? So yeah, you have two ways to go about this issue. One way is to extract the meanings that work according to the religion and the Arabic language. Religion and Arabic language, not just Arabic language, the religion and the Arabic language. That's why I said istiwa does not mean sitting. Sitting works for istiwa in the Arabic language, but not in the religion. And so you're going to take the meanings that work according to the Arabic language and leave the meanings that don't work that work according to the Arabic language and the religion, and you're going to leave out, you're going to abandon the meanings that don't work according to Arabic language and the religion. That's one way. The other way is not to look for the exact interpretation, actually, which is what we were spending a lot of time in the beginning about. When Al-Ghazali said this statement here, وَأَنَّهُ مُسْتَوٍ عَلَى الْعَرْشِ, he was actually avoiding giving an exact interpretation deliberately. He was deliberately avoiding giving an exact interpretation. So it's not a condition to get the exact interpretation. Uh, Rather, it would be enough to believe in those things generally without knowing exactly what is their interpretation. That's similar to, for example, uh, how's the Arsh? How's the Kursi? How are the deeds weighed in the afterlife? You don't know? Then what you going to do? Disbelieve in them? No, you're not going to disbelieve. You're going to say, I don't know. However it is, I believe in it. I don't know how that Arsh is, but however it is, I believe in it. How are those deeds going to be weighed in the scale? I don't know. I believe in it though. Then that's fine. And like that, you can do here too. What exactly is the interpretation of istiwa? You could say, I don't know, but whatever it is, I believe in it. That's valid. And that's the way of most of the Salaf, most of the old generations of Muslims. They did not delve into the exact interpretation of these things. And that's a test from Allah Ta'ala. He said, so for me to just believe as everything is, wouldn't that make me unknowing? To believe you must not know, but to know you do not believe. That last part, I don't know what that means. But when it comes to knowing and believing, it's possible to believe in something without knowing about it from every perspective. If you don't know about something from every perspective, doesn't mean you cannot believe in it. So just like you don't know, for example, how's that Arsh? Still believe in it though. And how's the Kursi? You still believe in it. What? How exactly? What does Angel Jibril look like? He has 600 wings. What that looks like? You can't even imagine it. You still believe in it though. And so it's like that when it comes to these ayahs of the Quran too. What is the exact interpretation of istiwa? You can say, you can afford to say, Allah knows. Whatever it is though, I believe it. That's what Imam Ash-Shafi'i said. Ash-Shafi'i said, آمنت بما جاء عن الله على مراد الله. I believe in what came from Allah according to the meaning that Allah meant. وبما جاء عن رسول الله على مراد رسول الله. And I believe in what came from the Messenger of Allah according to the meaning that the Messenger of Allah meant. So what he's saying is exactly what we're talking about now. It's like he's saying, I'm not going to give you an exact interpretation about some of these things, but whatever Allah meant by it, I believe in that. And whatever the Messenger of Allah meant by it, I believe in that. And I'll give you another example. Didn't Allah say about the prophets? منهم قصصنا عليك ومنهم من لم نقصص عليك. It means, oh Muhammad, some of the prophets we told you their stories, and some of them we did not tell you their stories. So, so what do you say about the prophets? You say, okay, so whoever was a prophet, I believe in him. If someone were to ask you, do you know who all the prophets are? You're going to probably say, no, I don't know who they all. I don't know all of them. So if they said to you, well, do you believe in all of them? You're going to say, yes, I do, for sure. لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله. We don't discriminate between any of the messengers of Allah. None of them? Not a single one of them. Does that mean you know who they all are? No. Okay. So is it clear for you? Okay. If there's no other question, you said what I was basically stating is that if you know something, there is no need to believe. No, there is still need to believe because you could know something without believing in it. So you have to believe in it too. That's why Allah says in the Quran about the Jews, يعرفونه كما يعرفون أبناءهم. It means they know Muhammad, they recognize him like they know their own children, or like they recognize their own children. They know Muhammad like they know their own children. So they know. But do they believe in him? They don't believe in him. The Jews don't believe in Muhammad. So this proves that you have to believe and know. And when you say Ashhadu, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, the scholar said Ashhadu means Alamu, I know, wa ataqidu, and I believe, wa atarifu, and I confess. I know, I believe, and I confess. So knowing is something and believing is something else. And when it comes to the matters of the religion, you need to يعني, whatever is obligatory on you to know, you have to know it and you have to believe in it too. And there's some things you might not know they're all of the reality, uh, but it's still possible to believe in it in general. You said, are they different, all three? Knowing and believing and confessing, yes, they're different. Knowing means perceiving it as it really is. Believing means accepting it. Because you might know something doesn't mean you accept it. And confessing means saying it with your tongue. So they each mean something different. You said, is I know, I believe, and I confess the same as I testify? Not necessarily in English. The Arabic verb ashhadu, it has the meaning I know, I believe, and I confess. And we usually would translate ashhadu as I testify, but does that mean that the English word testify really carries all of what the Arabic word shahada carries? Not necessarily. And you said here, part of your statement, you said, but what you don't know, you must learn. And until that point, you must believe and give all faith. It is true. Okay. So what you don't know, you must learn. Not necessarily. That's what I'm saying to you here. It's not a condition for a person to know the exact interpretation of these things that are not to be taken literally. And it's not a condition for a person to know exactly how's the arsh. It's not a condition for a person to know exactly how the deeds are going to be weighed. But you do have to believe in those things. You said, unless it is obligatory knowledge, right? Even amongst the obligatory knowledge, because it's obligatory to believe in the weighing of the deeds, but it's not obligatory to know exactly how it's going to happen. It's obligatory to believe that your book of deeds is going to be presented to you. So what's going to look like when you open your pages? You're going to see words written there? You're going to see images, or what? It's going to look like you looking at a tablet, or you're going to be seeing words written, or what? No, you don't know. You said, so wouldn't that mean you're taking a chance? No, not because you believing what the religion said. It's not believing something somebody just told you. Did it? Didn't it come in the religion for sure that the deeds will be weighed? Yes. So there's no chance you're taking here. Do you have to know exactly how it's going to happen? No. Didn't it come in the religion that the deeds, the book of deeds, will be presented to a person? Yes. Does that mean you're going to know exactly how that is before you experience it? No. It didn't the religion clearly tell us there's something called the Arsh? Yes. And there's something called Kursi? Yes. So there's no chance you're taking here. Does that mean you're going to know exactly how it is? No. So is it clear? You can follow up if you want to. And not just that, didn't Allah say, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ, those who believe in the unseen. Don't we believe there's enjoyment in the grave and torture in the grave? Yes. But if you go to a graveyard and open up someone's grave, you're going to see the enjoyment in the torture? Most likely not. Probably just going to see a dead person there. That's it. So that's clear for you, inshallah? Okay. Go ahead and ask your question. Okay, you say, I understand you, but still, in a way, I have a little confusion. Everything is as it is, long as it follows the religion. So that would mean there is no need to try and figure things out as long as you believe what is stated, right? No. Yani, there's some fundamental things about the religion, the belief in God. You need to understand that clearly. So we're not saying just believe God exists and don't understand anything we're saying. So I'm not saying that. Believe God exists. Know what does it mean? Say He exists. That and He has attributes, and learn the attributes that are obligatory to learn, and believe in the prophets and what it means to be a prophet and what are the attributes of the prophets, and believe in. Okay, so that's all going to be clear. And then learn how to pray and learn how to make wudu and learn how to fast very clearly and pay zakat and marry and divorce and sell and buy. Understand that very clearly. But there's going to be some things that you don't know the exact detail about them, and that's going to be fine. It's not you're not going to know every detail about everything anyway, right? Yeah. So it's not going to be your responsibility to understand every detail about everything, or else you have zero. But there are some things we're not going to know the realities until we encounter them. So when you see, inshallah, on Judgment Day, when you see Angel Jibreel with your own eyes, you're going to say, oh, that's what he looks like. You don't know now, doesn't mean you don't believe in him. So is it clear for you? You can follow up if you want. Some of those things, they are a test from Allah. Some of those ayahs, they are a test from Allah. Because the faithful believer he doesn't have lack of certainty, is not shaken by not knowing what some things mean. That's a test for you. Faithful believer is not going to be shaken by not knowing what some things mean. There's going to be some people, because they don't know what istiwa means, they're going to go crazy until they figure out what istiwa means. So you don't have to. You can say, whatever it means, I believe in it. I believe in Allah, and I believe in His Messenger, and I believe in His religion, and I know I'm not going to know every single thing that there ever is to know. So whatever there is that I have not comprehended it, but it is confirmed in the religion, I believe in it. And you keep learning, you're going to learn more and more. Like, for example, the tablets of the Torah that were revealed to Moses. Some scholars said those tablets were made of emerald. Some said those tablets were made of wood from paradise. So which one? Allahu Alam. When you say, I answered your question in the beginning that made more sense to me, are you saying I answered a question that made more sense to you than an answer that I just gave you now? Okay, tell me what it is so I can clarify for you. And in the meantime, let me see this other question right above. You said, I am a nurse and I often have to coffin dead non-Muslims. Is that permissible? Wash the dead. Um, yeah, it's possible for a Muslim to wash a dead kafir, but it's not permissible to clean the kafir's najasa. It's not permissible for a Muslim to clean a kafir's najasa. That's an important case for any Muslim, and especially Muslims who are working in healthcare. You cannot clean kafir's najasa. You cannot, for example, yeah, even if you have gloves, because it's not permissible. That goes back to a rule. It's not permissible for a Muslim to do a degrading job for a kafir. So that means you can't be wiping his butt, for example, can't be his butler, don't clean out his car, or things like that. What should you do? Don't clean the najasa. If you can not clean the najasa, don't clean the najasa. Just, put him in the. Let me put it this way. According to the way you pose the question to me, I often have to coffin dead non Muslims. So the way you put the question doesn't mean you're necessarily cleaning najasa. But I did add that for you. He said, or, wash the dead. Okay, yeah. Washing dead kafir does not mean you're cleaning his najasa. So the thing you need to avoid is clean his najasa. If you have non-Muslims who work with you, let them clean the najasa of the kafir. If you have kafir working with you, let the kafir clean the najasa of the kafir, if you can. It says, if Allah is alive, does this mean anything more than Allah is not dead? No. No, it doesn't mean that. If you want to follow up, you can ask, though. You can follow up if you want to. The answer to that question is no. So, what does the attribute of life mean? Allah's attribute of life is his attribute by which he is living. It is the validator, this attribute of uh, knowledge and power and will and sight and hearing and speech. And his attribute of life is without body and without soul. So it's different from our life. He has a life without a body and without a soul. And the fact that he created things proves that he's alive, because it means he did something. If uh, he did something perfectly too. So he's alive. You said you clarified that there are things you must accept and do, and there are things you won't be able to know but must believe. Okay. Let me say this. Here's a question. I'm going to give you the answer. This part where it says things you won't be able to know but must believe. Here's the question. Why would you have to believe in them? Do you know the answer? Why would you have to believe in them? Okay. The answer is because they came in the religion. Not because somebody said it, because they came in the religion. Not because Abu Bakr said it, not because Ali said it, not because I said it, because came in the Quran or came in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then you have to believe it. And if somebody told you something and you have to believe, and they told you you have to believe this, you can say to him, "Where'd you get it from?" There's no blame on you here. So if he can prove to you that it came in the religion, then you can say, "Okay, if that came in the religion, I believe in it. That's fine." And if he told you, here's you have to believe in such and such, and you told him, well, where'd you get it from? And he said, I don't know. You might say, well, I'm not gonna believe it just because you said so. Do you have a reference? Then if he gives you a reference, like for example, let's say it was said to someone, you have to believe that Allah has istiwa over the arsh. And he says, where do you get that from? So as if he doesn't believe it, but he never heard about it, let's say. He never heard about it. So he said, where do you get that from? These, so if a person says it's in the Quran, Ar-Rahman wa ala al-arsh istawa. So then at that point, if maybe the person might say, that's in the Quran, show me. Okay, here, I'll open it for you and show you. It's right here. Can you read the Arabic? Yeah, it took some Arabic. It's right there. See? Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arshi istawa. You have to believe Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arshi istawa. So then the person might say, okay, I believe Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arshi istawa. But what does it mean though? So then somebody might say, I don't know how to explain it to you. But whatever it means, you got to believe it though, because it's in the Quran. So then you'd say, okay, that's fine. You proved it to me. It's in the Quran. You showed it to me. So whatever it is, I do believe in it because I believe whatever's in the Quran. I don't even know all of what's in the Quran. By the way, brother, or I think you're a brother. Do you know everything in the Quran? Maybe you don't. I don't know everything that's in the Quran. But even though I don't know everything that's in the Quran, I'm telling you, I believe everything that's in the Quran. But I don't know all of what's in there. Anything that's in the Quran, I believe it. Then somebody might say, even this? And then I'll say to him, is it in the Quran? So if he says, yes, I'll tell him, if it's there, I believe it. And then if he said to me, can you explain it? And then if I don't know how to explain it, I'll say, no. And then if he said to me, how can you believe it if you can't explain it? I'm going to say, because it's in the Quran. And then if he said, is it possible to believe in something without knowing it? I will say to him, it is possible to believe in something without knowing about it completely, but you do need to know something about it in order to believe in it. That's true. You do have to know something in order to believe in it, but doesn't mean you have to know everything about it. You said, how do I know at least something about it? Such as it being said to you, we must believe in the weighing of the deeds. So when you hear those words, you might say, the weighing of the deeds. Well, I know what weighing means. Okay. I know what deeds means. I know what of means. But I can't explain this. So then you might say, okay, I believe in the weighing of the deeds. So then somebody says to you, how's that? You might say, I don't know. Maybe someone will tell you, well, there's a scale. On Judgment Day, there will be an enormous scale. This scale has two pans. The deeds will be weighed, the good deeds will be weighed in one pan, and the bad deeds will be weighed in the other pan. So then you might say, now I know a little bit more. Okay. But how would deeds be put into a pan? So you might say, I don't know. But I still believe that the deeds will be weighed. However that's going to happen, I believe in it. The resurrection day, I'm going to see. Is that clear? Take that example about the angel. I don't know what Angel Jibril looks like. I still believe in him. Yawm al-Qiyamah, we'll see him, inshallah. And Mikael, we'll see him, inshallah ta'ala. Those angels. Then we're going to see. Then we're actually going to see. This is the case. Actually, what I'm going to say now is the case, which is what on Resurrection Day we're going to see all of the things we had been believing in without seeing them. This would make the difference between the believer and the kafir. The Muslim, he believes by evidence. The kafir won't believe until he sees it with his own eyes. The Muslim believes before he sees it with his own eyes. He believes by the evidence. Then in the afterlife, when he sees it with his own eyes, he's going to have already been believing in it. And that's what's going to make him successful. That's how he was successful. He was believing in this life. And then in the afterlife, he's going to see it with his own eyes. And he's going to know that what he believed in was right. And now he can see it. Now he can fill in all the details that he didn't know. Because he can see it now. The kafir won't believe it until he sees it. Then it's going to be too late. It's clear. Follow up if you want to. Do you have another question? Inshallah, we'll come on Resurrection Day safe and sound. And inshallah, we'll see Adam and Noor, Prophet Ibrahim. We'll see the angels and all of that. See our book of deeds that the angels had been recording. We'll see the scale in which the deeds will be weighed, etc., etc. You'll see the jinn on Resurrection Day. The humans and genies will be gathered together. You're going to see those creatures. They have been invisible to us in this dunya. Then you're going to see them in the afterlife. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك